First of all, I'd like to welcome everybody. I'd like to welcome Professor Rao to be with us today. He's joining us from the heart of where I think the pandemic is at right now, from New York. Welcome, Professor Rao.
Thank you, Jay. Yes, I am in, I guess, what could be called ground zero. And it is delightful to be with you. We've been talking about doing something like this for a long time. So it happens when the time is right.
That is correct. So there's many silver linings to this dark cloud that we're able to actually come together and collaborate and do something for our beautiful audience here. So for those of you who are joining for the very first time, I just want to tell you a little bit about what this series is. This is called The Shelter in Love. And when the shutdown first happened in early March, some of you reached out to me and asked me and said, Jay, can you offer something where we feel a sense of community and be able to deal with these very uncertain times of anxiety? And so I did a series called Living Well, and you all liked it so much that you said I couldn't finish it. I couldn't stop there after 15 days. You wanted me to continue. And lo and behold, I said, why just me be the focus? Why not all my amazing group of friends from around the world? And we created this thing called Shelter in Love series. And today we are about a week into the series. I'm very happy to have some of my really thought leader friends from different parts of the world come and share their perspective, the spiritual perspective, what's going on. You all have plenty of information from the medical perspective and what's happening, the politics of this whole situation. But we're trying to get away from that. We're trying to go into, peel the layers and see underneath the skin and say, what is it that we have to learn here? What is the message from Mother Nature, right? What is it that our way of considering normal has to be re-looked at, reevaluated, such that when we go back from this abnormal into this new normal, whatever that's going to be, that we are not going to keep doing things to ourselves, to our community, and to Mother Nature that brought us into this place to begin with. With that said, I want to kickstart this conversation by introducing to you all Dr. Srikumar Rao, who's here as our guest from New York. So I want to share a story. You all can go look at his bio. He's got amazing accomplishments, but I want to share with you how I got to find out about him. So the story goes back about 4 years ago. I was meeting with a professor friend of mine, Dr. Raj Raghunathan, who is a business school professor at my alma mater, University of Texas at Austin. And somewhere we were talking about collaborating on a project. We were trying to bring happiness into workplaces, especially into the technology world, which is what the world I came from. And at the end of that meeting, he says, Jay, I want to give you something that I want you to please read. So he literally prints out on his computer right there in front of me. So freshly printed out hot package of 90 sheets of paper is handed to me as I'm walking out of that meeting. And he says, this is one of the guys I really love and respect. You should go read this. And I said, what is it? He said, it is the syllabus of a course that happens at the Columbia Business School. And I tell you, you should read this. And I said, okay, great. So then I was traveling at this point. So I bring that warm sheet, which is now sitting in my bed, next to my bed on the desk for maybe 2 months. One day I'm finding it, I'm not falling asleep. Just kind of rolling and tossing in my bed. I'm like, okay, can I read something? I turn on the light. I pick up this stack of paper that's been sitting there for literally 2 months next to my bed. And then I start reading it. I said, okay, I'll just see what is this thing, the syllabus, okay? Folks, I went from cover to cover, 90 pages without taking a break. It kept me up well into the night, into the early morning hours. And this is the syllabus, just the syllabus for a curriculum Professor Rao has developed called Creativity and Personal Mastery that he has taught in many places, including at Columbia Business School. And so then I was like, oh my God, I need to meet this man who speaks my language, except he does it in such a eloquent way, in a way that he's actually created a syllabus at one of the most, oh my God, at Columbia Business School, sitting in the heart of New York. I mean, Wall Street. What has this language got to do with anything with business school, what they teach there? Anyway, so I sought out, a friend of mine actually was a student. I didn't realize that a classmate of mine went to business school and he took this course. And so Sri Reddy Kona, I don't know if you're here, you're joining in, but thank you to you. Thank you to Professor Raj Raghunathan at University of Texas at Austin for you guys to connect me with this man here. Amazing, amazing human being. And you'll see in the course of this conversation. So with that long introduction, I'd like to go ahead and kickstart this with a conversation. And I have a question for you, Professor Rao.
Shoot, Jay.
In your works, I remember a quote that really spoke to me, kind of almost baffled me when I first read it. So the quote goes like this. You said, Galileo got it wrong. The earth does not revolve around the sun. It revolves around you and has been doing so for decades. At least this is the model you are using. Would you expand on that?
When I'm giving talks, and I give a lot of talks, I ask the audience, Galileo got into a spot of trouble a few hundred years ago. Do you know why? And they stick their hands up, and most of them get it. And they said, Galileo said that the sun moves around the earth. And I tell them, no, you're absolutely right. Galileo postulated that perhaps the sun does not move around the earth, perhaps the earth moves around the sun. And for that, he got into trouble. But all of you are convinced that Galileo got it wrong. The earth does not move around the sun, it revolves around you personally. And they kind of laugh because they understand that it's, kind of a semi-funny joke, but they don't really get the point of it. And then I lead on with examples. I say every single one, and this is true of everybody who's listening. It's true of you, Jay. It's true of me. No matter what happens in the world outside, we have a tendency very quickly to bring it down to what's the impact on me. Your partner gets a great job offer, and your immediate thought is, how is this going to affect our relationship? Your boss quits the company and moves on. And your thought is, who's the next person going to be, and what's my relationship going to be with that person? Or possibly, am I going to get promoted, or is it that turkey down the hall? Our daughter drops out of high school to begin an in-depth exploration of controlled substances. And we think, how much does rehab cost, and is this covered by my insurance? No matter what happens, we have an incredible ability to bring it down to what's the impact on me. Even when we're being altruistic, it comes up. Say, tragedy, COVID-19, people are getting killed. Here's something I can do to help the frontline workers. Let me make a donation. So you dial a number, a toll-free number to make a donation, and very quickly you're going to, how dare they put me on hold for so long? No matter what happens, we bring it down. That's what I mean when I say we live in a me-centered universe. We really behave as if the universe was revolving around us. And here's something you ought to know about living in a me-centered universe. If that's where we spend the vast majority of our time, we are going to live a life that's basically mediocre, punctuated with flashes of pleasure, but essentially meaningless. It just comes with the territory. That's how it is.
Wow. Wow. What a begin to this conversation. I love it. So one of the things about the me-centric world that is getting completely turned upside down on its head right now is this sense of identity. And like you said, it could be the job, it could be an identity that is associated with a possession of some sort of a thing. So it could be anything personal, it could be materialistic, or it could be something intangible. Now, all of those identities in the midst of this crisis are being challenged right now. Mm-hmm. And people are having to, right now, first, I feel we're in a cocoon phase where we're in this holding pattern in between the caterpillar and the butterfly. We don't really know what exactly is going to happen when I get out of it. One of the things that I feel is going to be very, very challenging, if it's not already happening in the near future, is your sense of purpose, your sense of what is bringing you meaning. And you've said something, again, over and over again in your course, where being obsessed by goals is bad for you. You should set goals, even ambitious goals, regularly, but focus on them only to the extent that they give you direction. So I have two parts of this question that I want to ask you, which is, how does one find goals that are truly aligned with their being? And then how can you talk a little bit about setting them, but not be fixated on the achievement of them?
Absolutely. Yes, I can. Let me tell you a story, Jay, which kind of gets to this. And it's a story I'm very fond of because it reveals a very powerful truth. There was a well-dressed man in evening clothes, and he was searching very busily under a lamp. And a jogger ran past, and he saw this man was searching, and then he circled back and said, "Hey, you seem troubled. Is there something wrong?" And the man says, "I lost my keys." So the jogger says, "No problem. I'll help you find them." And he bends down and searches. And after a few minutes, he says, "Look, we've searched this place pretty thoroughly, and I don't see any keys here. Where did you drop them?" And the man points there and says, "I dropped them over there." So the jogger's annoyed. He says, "Why are you searching for it here if you dropped your keys over there?" And the man says, "Well, it's kind of dark there and it's light here, so I thought I'd search here." Now, everybody kind of laughs because this is a semi-funny joke told in a semi-funny manner, but they understand it's a joke. But the next point is that really is a pretty accurate description of the way most of us are living life. We want to have a sense of purpose. We want to have deep joy in our life. And what we're very busy is going outside, building our careers, trying to double the amount of income that we have, move to a bigger house. And we're doing all of these things externally. And we're looking to solve a problem that is internal, which is a sense of confusion, meaninglessness, of not being where we need to be in terms of joy in our life. And the single truth is, you cannot solve an internal problem by external action. This is key. You cannot solve an internal problem by external action. And yet that's what all of us are trying to do. It's no different from searching for our keys here when we drop them over there. The principle is very valid. So people come and say, how do I find my purpose? The short answer to that is, you don't find your purpose. Your purpose finds you. Most of the time, we're so busy with our mental chatter, with going out and doing all of the things that we should. And some of those things are indoctrinations because that have been put upon us by our parents, our teachers, our coaches, society, media. It's all a vast conspiracy to get us to think that we have to go out and we have to be successful. And successful is defined a number of metrics, but primarily how much money you're making, how big your house is, how much power, quote unquote, you have, where you are in the hierarchy of which you are a part, and all kinds of things like that. And the short answer is, by all means, strive for them. But if you strive for them with the thinking that once I achieve it, then I will be happy, you're chasing fool's gold. It does not happen that way. First, you become happy, and then you go off and whatever your endeavor is. But recognize that whether you succeed in that endeavor or not has really no bearing on your well-being. This is really profound. So the objective, we live our lives in the following way. I set a goal for myself, I succeeded, life is a blast. Or I set a goal for myself, I failed, life sucks. And I don't have to tell you that we set numerous goals to ourselves, most of which do not happen because they're beyond our control, extraneous factors, whatever. When you live like that, you are oscillating on a sinusoidal curve between elation and despair, and you spend more time at the despair end of the spectrum. And that's a lousy way to live. There is a better way. The better way is the one that you just outlined. Set a goal, set an ambitious goal for yourself. But once you have, forget about the goal, because the importance of the goal is it establishes the direction. Then you try your level best to achieve the goal, but you're not obsessed with achieving the goal. You pour all of your emotional energy into the actions that you have to undertake to meet the goal. If you do meet the goal, fantastic. If you don't meet the goal, fantastic, provided you have tried your level best to achieve that goal. That is the key. Because the mistake that we make, and the vast majority of persons make, is they think the benefit of setting a goal and trying very hard to achieve the goal is achieving the goal. Wrong. The benefit of setting a goal and trying your level best to achieve the goal is the learning and growth that happen in you and to you as you try to your level best to achieve the goal. If you actually achieve the goal, that is a bonus. Be intensely grateful. And if you don't achieve the goal, you still had the learning and growth, so you're ahead of the game. It's a no-lose proposition. But the funny thing is that when you have an ambitious goal and you try your level best to achieve it, and at the same time, it really doesn't matter to you internally whether you achieve it or not, two things happen. Number one, the probability that you will achieve it actually increases. It's a little bit like you're in a negotiation. When you're in a negotiation, you're never in a stronger position than when you're genuinely prepared to walk away. It's exactly the same way in life. You have a goal, an ambitious goal, you're trying your level best to achieve it, but it's perfectly okay whether you do or not. And when you are in that space, that fine balance, you'll find that the probability you'll get what you set out to get actually increases. And the second part of it is when you focus on what it is that you do, you pour your emotional energy into the actions that you do, you start enjoying the journey. When you're obsessed with goals, you're focused on the destination. The destination is a mirage. You get there, you tarry a few minutes, and then you're off someplace else. The journey is with you always. The journey is the only thing you have. You know, people talk about, I want to climb Mount Everest. Have you ever thought about how much time they spend on top of Mount Everest? A few minutes to a half hour max. You get up there, your buddy takes a picture of you, your buddy gets up there, you take a picture of him, and then you're on your way down and you hope you don't get killed in an avalanche. So if you're going to climb Mount Everest, you better enjoy the weeks and months of acclimatization on base camp 1, base camp 2, and so on. It's the same way in life. Set an ambitious goal, pour your energy into the actions that you have to undertake. And when you do that, every day becomes a blast. You enjoy the journey, and in truth, the journey is the only thing you have. The destination is a mirage. Don't focus on the outcome. I put it this way, don't invest in the process, don't invest in the outcome.
Beautifully said. Wow. Yeah. You know, there's something that you have been saying for a long time now, which is before you follow your own drummer, you have to hear the drummer.
Correct.
So now this has got so much depth, even though it's catchy, it's kind of provocative, but it's very deep. So I would request you to help us to listen to our drummers for the next few minutes, please.
My pleasure to do that, Jay. All right. Can I request everybody who's there to sit in their chairs, sit with spine erect and both feet on the ground, and consciously relax the body. And pay attention to my voice. Most of the time when we breathe, we use only the upper third of our thoracic cavity. Every time we are agitated, our breathing is fast and shallow. So focus on your breathing now. Consciously take deep breaths. Feel your belly expand as you breathe in. Feel it contract as you breathe out. Follow your breath as it goes into your nostril into your lungs. Exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide takes place, and the carbon dioxide laden air is breathed out. Follow the air in, follow the air within your body, follow it as it streams out. And continue doing that. Consciously take very deep breaths, very slow breaths, and keep your attention on your breath. Breathe in. Breathe out. Now, continue breathing slowly, very slowly, very, very slowly as I take you on a journey. Your awareness is like a flashlight, a torch. A flashlight illuminates whatever you shine it on. If you shine it on the table, it lights up the table. If you shine it on the floor comes alive and lit up. Now use your awareness like a flashlight and shine it on your feet. Feel your feet resting on the floor. Relax your feet. Relax your toes. Do you feel the ground under the balls of your feet? Press down a little so that it becomes clear. Observe the balls of your feet. What about the side of your foot? Is it resting on the ground? Can you feel it? What about your arches? Do you have arches? Or are you flat-footed so you can feel the ground? What about your heels? Planted more firmly on the ground. Feel the ground beneath your foot. Do you notice a difference? Is your left foot more heavily planted than your right foot? Or the other way around? Equalize the pressure. Move up your body. What about your calves? How are they? Your calf muscles. Consciously relax them. Now tighten them, bunch them up, and relax them. Feel your muscles as you clench them, as you tighten them, and feel them as you relax them. Your knees, they're bent. Are they tensed up? Or are they loose and relaxed? Tighten your knees. Don't move them, just tighten them. and then let them go. What about your thighs? Direct your attention to your left thigh, and then direct your attention to your right thigh. Are you resting your hands on your thighs? Feel your hands on your thighs. Clench your quadriceps, really clench them till it almost hurts, and then relax. Now do it one leg at a time. Really tighten up your left quadriceps. Let it go. Really tighten up your right quadriceps. Let it go. Feel the chair pressing on the back of your thighs. Can you feel your thighs resting on the chair? Turn your awareness to that. How does it feel? Can you feel the fabric of the chair rubbing against the fabric of whatever you're wearing, pants, sweatpants, dress? Just observe that feeling. Concentrate all of your attention on just that spot. Your chair pressing against your thighs. And the fabric, feel the fabric against your skin. Move your attention to your belly. Can you feel your belly expand as you breathe in? Feel it contract as you breathe out. There is motion, slight motion, but as this motion occurs, you can feel the fabric of whatever you're wearing rub against your stomach. Just notice it. Observe it. Move your attention to your buttocks. You're sitting on a chair. Feel your weight on the chair. And it seems as if the chair is pushing back. Feel the fabric that's between you and the chair. The fabric that may be covering the chair. The fabric that comes from whatever you're wearing as you sit on the chair. Become aware of that. Turn your attention to your back, your spine. Is your spine straight, or have you tilted it unconsciously? Straighten your spine. Stretch your spine mentally. Elongate your neck and elongate your spine. Just feel it straight. Feel the push as you mentally straighten it and try to reach for the ceiling. Your shoulder blades, have you pushed them back? Tense your shoulder blade. Tense it. Relax. How does it feel when you relax? Move your attention forward. Look at your pectoral muscles. How are they? Tense them. Tense them. Let them go. How does it feel when you let them go? As you're tensing your pectoral muscles, do you still see your chest expanding? Because you're breathing in, you're breathing out. Focus your attention on the breath. Air. This is what is going into your chest and pushing it out. Push it out even further. Your chest contracts as you breathe out. Breathe out even more. Feel it contract deeply. Turn your attention to your left arm. Your fingers, the fingers of your left arm. Are they clenched? Clench them tightly. Now unclench them. Let them lie as if they were the arm of a rag doll that someone has thrown on the sofa. Tense your forearms. Relax them. Your upper arm. Tense your biceps. Relax them. Let your arm rest on your thigh, completely relaxed, as if it were the arm of a rag doll. Move your attention, your awareness to your right arm. Clench your fingers. Unclench them. Relax them. Let them rest on your thigh. Tense your forearm. Let them relax. Tighten up your biceps and your triceps and your deltoids. Feel your arm quiver as you tense your muscles. Let them go. Relax. Let your right hand rest on your thigh, and your arm should be relaxed like that of a rag doll. Now feel both of your arms in that manner. They're just lying there. If someone were to pick them up, they would drop limply. How about your neck? Is your neck relaxed or tensed? This is where a lot of the tension in your body resides. Tense your neck. Really tense them. Feel the muscles in your neck that come out like cords. and then relax. Your head will drop forward if you relax completely. So you probably want to have just a little bit of tension, just enough to keep your head straight on your neck. How about your eyes? Close your eyes, crunch them shut. Now relax, let them go. Feel the ease that happens when you scrunch them and then let them go. Feel your scalp, the top of your head. If you put your attention on that, you can actually feel your head. Have you got there? Tense the muscles of your face, your cheeks. Now relax them. Wrinkle up your brow. Now relax it. Relax your face. Feel your facial muscles unclench and gently assume a posture of rest. Go back to your breath. Breathe in. Make it really, really, really slow. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Focus on your breath. Imagine that you're immersed in a golden haze of energy. And as you breathe in, this golden haze is coming into your nostrils, on your breath, and flowering throughout your body. And this golden energy remains inside, and black particles, the toxins, are now attaching themselves to the air. And as you breathe out, these toxins are wafted away from your body. Breathe in, and this golden elixir, this haze of pure energy is coming into your body. And the same breath is taking away the dark specks, the toxins. Feel that happening. You're breathing in pure energy. You're breathing out all the toxins that have accumulated in your body. Breathe in. Breathe out. Gradually, slowly, Become aware of your body again. Your body sitting on your chair. Slowly open your eyes. Think about where you have been and recognize that it is within your power to go back to that calm place at will. Slowly, slowly come back to the room. Come back to the webinar you signed up on.
That was so wonderful.
Thank you, Jay.
The one realization, I've been meditating for a couple of decades, but the one thing that was so unique about this was the sensations in my body, particularly when you said, notice the tension that you're holding in your neck to keep your head upright.
Mm-hmm.
I never thought of it that way, that as we are going about in our wake state, so to speak, we always have a tension in our head, in our neck.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, of course, because that's how when we fall asleep at in a plane or a train, we notice how the head falls forward. I never thought of it. So there is that long time tension that is there that we need to actively seek to release. That was profound. Thank you. And the other thing that I must say, I cannot believe I just owned with a professor from Columbia Business School, one of the top management schools in the world. How much more validation does the world need than this? That meditation is one of the most, if not the most profound tool to tune inside.
Oh, absolutely.
Folks, I invite you all who joined in, please go ahead and put in your questions. I already see questions coming in. So I'm going to read this question out, and then the rest of you can please go ahead and share, start typing in your thing. So Diksha asked the question, please share your thoughts on having a career with motherhood. What should take precedence?
I would say the question itself is faulty because there is an this or this built into the question itself. And as long as you see the world in terms of a trade-off, the trade-off will appear. I would like to suggest an alternate model. And the alternate model is that the only thing you ever do in life is you work on yourself. Let me repeat that. The only thing you ever do in life is you work on yourself. You know, as it says in the Chandogya, not for the sake of the husband does the wife love the husband, but for the sake of the self. It's exactly like that. A benevolent universe has provided you an immense number of tools. You've got a child and you want to bring up the child and be a good mother. Yes, you're doing that. But in the process of doing that, what you're really doing is you're working on yourself. You've got a career, you want to be the best employee, you want to be an inspiring leader. And in the process of doing that, you're actually working on yourself. In short, the only thing you ever do in life is you work on yourself. So you're in a situation where you have a career and you have a child, and these are two wonderful tools given to yourself. And the onus is on you as to how you can use this combination of tools to together do the most effective job of working on yourself. There will be times when you will use the tool of work and you'll be very focused on what you have to do. You have got a crisis in the office or something. And there will be times when you focus very heavily or almost exclusively on your child because the demands are there. But don't think in terms of either or. Think in terms of how do you optimize the particular set of tools and the circumstances that you're being given. Because understand that if you see the world in terms of trade-off, the trade-offs will appear. So don't use that model. Think of optimizing given the particular set of circumstances you are, and you will be surprised at how many wonderful hacks appear.
Fabulous. I'm going to ask a question related to this. And so you asked about motherhood, but I think right now every relationship is in question of great examination because people are stuck indoors with either people that they have chosen to, in case of married ones, or somebody that just kind of they inherited by virtue of being a child or whatever. And of course, in this close quarters for extended periods of times, all kinds of things are going to come up. And one of the things that you say, I've read about, is that you say that ignore all the crap, focus only on the positive things about that person, and you will notice that shift in attitude. But you see, that's easier said than done. Can you give some tips around how to be able to cultivate this attitude of having the lens of only positivity, no matter how stressed I feel or the whole situation seemingly is going on forever?
Uh, Actually, Jay, I would like to have persons listening to this webinar or podcast or whatever. I would like them not to think in terms of positive or negative. So you look at someone and say, oh, he's got a whole bunch of positive traits and he's got some traits which are negative. But the positive so much outweighs the negative that I'm going to only focus on the positive. The reason for that is very simple. The moment you say, I'm going to look on the bright side, I'm going to be positive, the moment you say that, in your mind, you've already made a judgment that something is negative, and you now have to ameliorate it by finding something positive in the stuff that you've already decided is negative. You've got to find the silver lining in the cloud. That is a challenging thing. And I would much prefer that persons don't label things as negative. They just label it as this happened. So you're stuck with someone and, this person is getting on your nerves. You can use it as, oh my God, how unfortunate, I'm stuck with this idiot and he's totally getting on my nerves. Or you can look upon it as, I've got a brilliant opportunity to live my life such that this other person's mannerisms don't take me to an emotional domain that I do not want to be, living in. I come across this situation all the time outside of the coronavirus context because I've taught at many of the top business schools in the world. And my students went out and got jobs with the City of London or Wall Street. The City of London is basically the London equivalent of Wall Street. And those are not warm, fuzzy places. And there are all kinds of stories about really, really toxic bosses that they have. And my advice to them is you can have a toxic boss and you can feel pity for yourself. Oh my God, I'm stuck with this toxic boss and there's nothing I can do. Or you can look upon it as an opportunity. And that is, here's this toxic boss, and obviously he carries within him seeds of anger, frustration, and a whole bunch of things. And his presence and the vibrations he's giving out are very strong. Am I going to let his vibrations drag me to where he is living and I feel unsettled and unhappy? Or am I going to be anchored so strongly in my peace, calm, and serenity that I'm not going to let him dislodge me? And I'm going to be so strongly anchored that I'm going to pull him into my bubble rather than drifting into that. Even if you start thinking along those lines, you will find that it changes the emotional domain that you occupy, and you can retain your inward peace, calm, and serenity, even while outside things are going to hell and your boss is fulminating. I'll tell you a real story. So there was this woman who got a job with a hedge fund, and she was talking to me, and she said, "Professor Rao, you don't know how bad things are." Her boss was, not very tall, slightly pudgy, and he had a habit of, he was a zillionaire, and whenever he got angry, he would pull himself up to his full height. He would glare at the person that he was angry at. He would thrust his face into that person's face, and he would start shouting, and he was really profane, and his face would get red, and bits of spit would fly out and land wherever they did. And she described all that to me and said, "Professor Rao, you don't know how bad it is. And the moment my bonus check clears, I'm out of here because I'm not going to take it anymore." And I said, "Fine, you can do that. But you have invested a lot of time with this firm and, basically going to walk away from all of that. And do you really want to do that?" I said, "What's the alternative? I can't put up with this." So I told her a story. When my kids were younger, we went to Disney World, and one day we were waiting for an attraction, and the line was long, and there was a man who had a child, small child, maybe 7, 8 years old, and the child was, very, very fidgety, and he would go out and touch the other people in the line, and he had sticky fingers, and they didn't like being touched with sticky fingers, so they'd glare at the father, and the father would be embarrassed, and he'd grab the child and hold him tight, and when they held the child tight, the child would start crying, so then he'd release the child, and he'd go off and touch people with his sticky fingers, and they'd glare. So a very uncomfortable situation for him. And suddenly the mother appeared, and with this genius that mothers have, she looked behind his behavior and said, he's hungry, and she produced foods. And within 10 minutes, there was a remarkable transformation in the kid. Far from being a pest, he was smiling and, joking around, and everybody enjoyed looking at him. And the transformation, as I said, happened in less than 10 minutes. And I suggested to my student that when a boss was throwing a tantrum, he was just a small kid throwing a tantrum. She was completely unconvinced. Shortly after that, something happened, and he got annoyed at her, and he drew himself up to his full height, and he stared at her, and he thrust his face into her face, and his face became red, and he started screaming, and bits of spit started flying. And all of a sudden, she remembered what I said, and the thought that this was a kid having a tantrum was so apropos that she couldn't stop herself. She burst out laughing. And it was as if she had slapped her. I said, "What do you do?" She forgets what she said, but at that moment, there was a switch. There was a switch in her head. And instead of seeing him as an ogre who has to be placated, she simply saw him as an overgrown kid throwing a tantrum. And the funny thing was, the moment there was a change in her head, there was a change in the relationship. He behaved exactly the way he was with everybody else, but he never shouted at her again. And 6 months later, she got a better offer, moved off, and the situation ended. But that's the point for people to realize. When you make a change internally, the external world always rearranges itself. You're not alone. You're in a dance with the universe. And when you lead differently, the universe does not have a choice but to follow differently.
Wow. Powerful. Okay, Professor Rao. So we're coming to the end of our time, and I want to ask you a very pointed, specific question. You talked about anchoring ourselves inside our bubble, and then you said, as we do that, the universe around us will realign or reconfigure to support our journey. Can you give us 3 tips we can walk away with from the seminar that will help us to anchor ourselves no matter what hell is breaking loose outside?
Number one, be appreciative and grateful. We spend too much of our energy, too much of our emotional energy so that we focus out on, it's as I said earlier, the flashlight of our awareness. We focus it on the 2, 3, or 4 things that are wrong in our lives. More precisely, on the 2 or 4, 3 things that we have arbitrarily decided is wrong in our lives. It may not be wrong at all, but we have decided it's wrong, and therefore we experience it as such. And we totally ignore the 50, 60, 200 things which are pretty damn good about our lives. Flip that around. Think about those things. And I encourage persons to do it just before you go to bed. Think about all the things that are wonderful in your life. Now, the problem is that most of us live in our intellect. So when you live in your intellect, there is a tendency to think gratitude rather than feel gratitude. So you can't go good health check, food to eat check, roof overhead check. It doesn't work like that. You have to actually experience the feeling of gratitude. And the way you do that is to tell stories to yourself and tie it up. Suppose, for example, you say, I really should be grateful because I have food to eat in this coronavirus times, and I have a bed to sleep in. Tell a story. Because you have food to eat, you're not constantly hungry or thinking about, what you can eat. And therefore, when your child falls down and hurts herself, you can go and comfort her because you can put all your emotional energy into the pain that she is feeling. Because you're not constantly thinking about food, when your client calls and he has a problem, you can get on a Zoom call or on the phone and troubleshoot his problem for him. Because you're not hungry, you can get a good night's sleep. And by the way, when you get a good night's sleep, part of the reason you can do that is because you have a bed to sleep in. And because you have a bed to sleep in, you can get up in the morning and guess what? You can make your bed. Now, there's a wonderful book by Admiral McRaven, which talks about, these are the small things that you can do that really give structure to your life. And he begins, in fact, I think the title of his book is Make Your Bed. So you can make a bed because you have a bed. So be grateful. As you start telling stories to yourself and elaborate on the number of things you have that are really pretty damn good in your life, you'll find you move out of the thinking into the feeling. My hope is that everybody on this call will eventually be in a position where the default emotional domain is appreciation and gratitude. Because when your default emotional domain is appreciation, gratitude, you're not angry, you're not frustrated, you're not anxious, you're not fearful. Those places, those things cannot coexist. So see what you can do to cultivate the default emotional domain of appreciation and gratitude. The second thing is to realize that nothing is under your control. And this is where I get a lot of pushback. What do you mean no control? I can control whether I scratch my nose or not. Here I did it. Here I did it again. Here I did it a third time. I can scratch my nose anytime I want. The short answer is yes, you can scratch your nose anytime you want until you can't. And I remember I was giving a talk and somebody raised their hand, Prof Rao, I can so relate to you because just a few months ago, I had got into a freak accident and I had my arms in a cast. And my nose was really itchy and I could not scratch my nose. So I can completely relate to that. So we like to think we have things under control, but we don't. And people push back and say, okay, maybe I don't have total control, but I have some control. Or maybe I don't have control, but I can influence. That's like saying, I'm a little bit pregnant. If it makes you comfortable to think that way, do, but realize that you really don't have any control. And all of the grand goals you have, the plans you make, every one of them can be thrown into complete chaos for something totally unpredictable. And each of us can remember something that happened in our lives that was so totally unforeseeable that it threw all our plans into a cockpit. Recognize that you do not have control, make peace with it. But what you can do is don't invest. By all means, set goals, but don't invest in those goals. Invest in the process, in the actions, and you start enjoying the journey. So the second tip would be invest in the process. Do not invest in the outcome. John Wooden had a beautiful way of putting it. John Wooden was one of the winningest coaches in any sport. He led UCLA to an unprecedented number of victories in the NCAA. And he was the first person to reach the Basketball Hall of Fame, both as a player and as a coach. And he used to say, whenever I worked with a new team, I never talked about winning or outscoring opponents. I always talked about when it was over and you looked in the mirror, did you do the best you were capable of? If you did the best you were capable of, the score really doesn't matter. But if you did the best you were capable of, I fancy you'll find the score to your liking. It's a perfect articulation. Invest in the process. Do not invest in the outcome. And the third thing that I would like to leave everyone is, we think we live in a real world. We don't. We live in a construct. Every single one of us is living in the matrix. The only difference is this is not a matrix created by an alien civilization out to enslave us. It is something that we created with the thoughts we entertain, the mental chatter we entertain, and the mental models we hold. We live in a reality, not the reality. We believe we live in the reality, but it isn't. It's a reality. And we experience this reality as we have constructed it. And this is hugely liberating, because if you're living in the reality and you don't like it, you're screwed. But if you're living in a reality and you don't like it, you can deconstruct the parts of it you don't like and build it up again. And this is a rest of your life exercise. In fact, that's what my entire program is based on. Whenever I have coaching clients, whenever I have people come to my program, these are the things we talk about. So recognize that the world you live in is not the reality. It is a reality. If you don't like it, you can change it. And this is something you do over and over again. So I think those are three pretty powerful tips, Jay.
And those are pretty good homework, Professor. You've given us some homework to work on, friends. So let's, amazing, just absolutely tremendous value. I am eternally grateful for this. This is going to be watched by many, many people for many, many years.
Now this is recorded, right, Jay? Could you send me the recording as well?
Absolutely, absolutely. Yes, I've already posted. I've tagged you on it when we went live. So people are watching us on YouTube, not just on Zoom. There's a lot more on YouTube than watching us here.
Okay.
And also it's been recorded. I'll share with you. With that, I'd like to thank you very much for your time. Thank you all for joining from wherever you are in the world. And until we meet again, be well.
Thank you. Bye, Jay.
Bye.